5.
Curry hits a three.
4.
Houston with a drive. Deep left field.
3.
Patrick hit by Watt. Sack number 10.
2.
Messi with a record-breaking goal.
1.
Welcome to BSS Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Steve and Trevor.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of BSS Sports. My name is Steve Schill with the ever-lovely Trevor Struthers, and if you did not know, Roger Federer is number 1, Swiss, and number 2, has his own website. Trevor, what is more impressive? The fact that he is Swiss and dominating the sports industry, or the fact that he has his own website?
I don't think it's surprising he has his own website. I mean, let's keep in mind here, we're talking about maybe the greatest tennis player of all time. So the fact that he has his own website really shouldn't be like a new thing. We have a website. It's kind
of cool that he has his own website. I wish I had my own website dedicated to solely me.
We don't have like the domain, but we have like a website that we made through like a website making thing. So it's like anybody can have a website today, especially a fantastic athlete.
An athlete. That sounded like the Benchwarmers thing when they made fun of him for saying athlete with so many synonyms or whatever it's called. Anyway, with that being said, Wimbledon, Federer wins it. He's 35. Absolutely crushing the tennis world right now. I guess the topic again turns to the whole, is he the greatest tennis player of all time? And then, to an extent, we can kind of look across the board, because, I mean, you have Messi and Ronaldo right now, you have LeBron James, obviously people look back to Michael Jordan and whatnot, but in general, I think we're in a fantastic time in seeing all these star athletes potentially being the greatest players playing their respective sports. Is Roger Federer the greatest in his?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's obviously an interesting point. And, I mean, also to go along with Roger Federer, I mean, some of his greatest competition he's playing with now and has been playing with, and Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic as well. So there's an interesting point to be made there, but it's hard to argue against Roger Federer being the greatest tennis player of all time simply because he has 19 Grand Slams. You know, that's kind of a lot. The one knock against him, really, the only knock I can find about Roger Federer is that he only has one French Open out of those 19 Grand Slam titles, 8 Wimbledons, which is a record, you know, just winning that now. He has 5 U.S. Opens, 5 Australian Opens. But, I mean, this is a guy that essentially has dominated the game from his inception when he turned pro in 98. And, I mean, he's still not wavering even at 35, and he could go on for who knows how much longer. You know, I could see this guy playing into his 40s, and I don't know if he'll be necessarily at this level where he's winning majors, but it wouldn't be, you know, like, it would be, like, I could still see it happening. And the thing is, too, like, he's, like... He might run into a bit of a trouble if he runs into like a Djokovic or if he runs into a Nadal when it comes to later in these tournaments. But I mean, the thing with tennis, right? You lose that one match and you're out of the tournament, and then the opportunities open for somebody else. And I think Roger Federer deserves a lot of credit for not only being able to win these tournaments, but being able to not get upset. Because when you're going into these tournaments, playing against these top guys, who's the guy you circle on your schedule when you see that you're going to end up playing him? That's Roger Federer.
I mean, right now he's ranked number 3 in the entire world. At a time, he held the number 1 spot for 302 weeks in a row. And I guess as we're looking to the future, what do you think the max age for tennis players is? Because, I mean, we've seen some hockey players, like Jaromir Jagr, going up into their 40s. Do you think tennis players have that longevity?
Yeah, I think they do in many ways. I mean, obviously, it also depends on the individual and the kind of shape they keep themselves in. I mean, it seems like Roger Federer is great for that, you know, being 35 now and still performing at the level that he is. So, I mean, I could see it happening with him, but with certain guys, you start to trail off after a while. And, I mean, technically, when it comes to longevity and how long you want to play, I mean, you're not going to be great forever, but it's how long do you want to stick around and maybe risk ruining that legacy a little bit, because eventually you get to a point where you're just not as good. And you can keep playing and play into your 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, but you won't be at that kind of peak that you were at your 20s and 30s. And some guys, I mean, that's eventually when they hang it up. Definitely, I mean, this guy's earned over $100 million, so he definitely has more than enough to get him through life. But So he can hang him up whenever he wants. But as long as you're in tip-top shape and you're still performing at the top of your game, I mean, just keep going, and that's what he's doing. And really, any athlete can do that. But yeah, once you start to trail off, I mean, Jaromir Jagr is still finding ways to produce. And if he wasn't, I mean, let's face it, he'd be retired by now. But because he's still producing, that's why he's still playing.
Now, in terms of female tennis, Serena Williams named the ESPY's best female tennis player, and kind of going along the line with some of the other athletes, Sidney Crosby being named the best NHL player, for the best fighter, Demetrius Johnson, the best NFL player, Aaron Rodgers, Major League Baseball player, Mike Trout, just generic best male athlete, Russell Westbrook, best breakthrough athlete, Dak Prescott. And I mean, we're just going down this list. And you might guessed it, the best international athlete, Usain Bolt. So, I mean, when we're looking at these ESPYs, Simone Biles is on there as well for the best female athlete for her billions of Olympic medals that she won this year. When we're looking across this list, these are all massive, massive names. Is there any one of these ones that we're looking at, and you think, okay, these guys are good, but if they didn't play with the other stars on their team, they wouldn't be as good? So, for example, LeBron James, I don't really think there's many other stars. Sure, you could say Kyrie Irving is going to help him out, but again, he's just a dominant player, and we've seen that before when he had a lackluster team. Russell Westbrook, same thing. Usain Bolt, there's not even a team there, so that doesn't count. But I'm more or less looking at Aaron Rodgers and looking at the different people on his team, and for the fact that it's a quarterback to an extent as well, is why does the NFL always praise quarterbacks and not really give anything else to the rest of the team? Because there's more than just the quarterback.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to give it to a Packer, first off, I mean, it has to be Aaron Rodgers. There really isn't much. There wasn't much, definitely late in that season, too, when they were winning games to get into the playoffs. They really didn't have much going for them at all. I mean, they literally didn't have a running back pretty much the entire season. I mean, Ty Montgomery came on late as a receiver that played in that backfield, but, I mean, he's not a running back. And so they basically just had to rely on Aaron Rodgers and his pass catchers, and that's exactly how they were able to get into the playoffs. And I think that's the sole reason why he was picked for that award.
And then you have Dak Prescott as well, and he's winning stuff, and it's the quarterback. I just don't understand. I know we're getting close to the NFL season. That's why I want to bring this up, but I just don't understand with the NFL why it's solely focused on the quarterback.
Yeah, well, with Dak, there is a bit more of that argument, obviously, right? Because we also had the season, and he'd be up for the same thing. We also had the season that Ezekiel Elliott just had, too, right? So, there's a debate to be had there, and especially because they're so close and so, they contribute so much to that offense. But, I mean, I guess the overrated thing, too, though, is who do those guys both play behind? That Dallas Cowboys offensive line, which is basically the best in football. So, really, how much of the credit that they would get goes to those guys too, right? So, football is that interesting sport where it's like it's usually not just one guy. You need a bunch of things going to make anything happen.
And we'll see if the Cleveland Browns can win more than one game this year. Now, switching over to baseball, the Blue Jays. Oh my God, the Blue Jays. Okay, so yesterday they lose 5-6. The day before that, they lose 11-1, and keep in mind they're in Detroit. And then the day before that, they win 7-2. And then the day before that, that was the game that they lost 19-1, which, I want to say is a record. I don't think it is. But the day before that, they won 2-7. Or 7-2, sorry. And then the day before that, they lost 12-2. Why are the Blue Jays giving up so many runs when their focal point for the last couple of seasons was their pitching and actually hitting? Okay, sure, the pitching wasn't great, but for all intents and purposes, it kept them in it throughout the whole year. They really didn't let in more than 5 runs a game-ish on average at the most. And then now we're losing by 10 runs or more, and we're not scoring.
Yeah, well, there was the Tigers 11, but before that, when they're going up against Houston, you're going up against one of the best teams in baseball. And that 19-1 loss, it wasn't their worst loss. It was about to be their worst shutout loss if it was 19-0, but then Carrera hit a home run in the 9th inning that saved that from being historic. So, But yeah, I mean, this is a team that you mentioned the pitching in previous years, how that was the starting pitching definitely was a strength for them the last couple of years, and you have to look no further recently than the pitching of Marco Estrada. I mean, this is a guy as well. I mean, how great was this guy in the playoffs these last couple of years, and even in the regular season, and what he's been able to do, and then in these last strand of like 8 starts, he's got an ERA around 10. So he has been abysmal recently, but so is a bunch of this team. I mean, this is a team as well that just can't hit with runners in scoring position. And then usually as a baseball team, even in the major leagues, hitting's hard. Hitting with runners in scoring position is a nitpicky stat. But so nobody's going to be great with hitting and runners in scoring position. But the Blue Jays are abysmal at that. So that's something there that also needs to improve, obviously, is start capitalizing on driving guys in. A lot of people say they rely too much on the home run ball. A home run is the greatest result you can get out of an at-bat, but it's also not very likely to happen, right? So you need a bit of a mixture, and I don't think clutch is a thing. You just need to run into a pitch. That's all you need. With a runner in scoring position, put it in a spot, and maybe the bat bit monsters are a bit against them when it comes to that. Maybe they're hitting balls right at guys with runners in scoring position, but yeah, I mean, that's obviously what they've struggled with offensively, and then on the other side, they're pitching. And certain parts, there's been strength. Danny Barnes has been really impressive this year out of the bullpen. But, yeah, I mean, that rotation has run into some rough spells. I mean, Marcus Stroman's a guy as well that struggled this year. It was nice to see Aaron Sanchez finally get his first win against Detroit. That was a long time coming. So, really, this has been a year for the Blue Jays to learn a bit, there's nothing wrong with that. They're going to have a lot of these guys potentially back next year, assuming they don't make any moves at the deadline that they could just throw in there. And I mean, there's a lot of talented guys in this lineup, so I think it'd be ridiculous to think that they couldn't somehow bounce back. I mean, usually guys, they'll have rough spells, they'll be pretty good, but usually they go back to about their career norms, right? And so this overall is a pretty good team. Obviously, playoffs getting further and further away at a point like this, but I mean, even for next year, you have a solid core here still that you could bring back for next year. I mean, hey, the play of Smoke, I mean, he was an all-star this year, started at first base, he was voted in, but he's had a phenomenal year. Both him and Morales have really kind of helped fill that hole that was Encarnacion.
So just about 2 minutes left here on BSS Sports, and I guess we can't really finish things off without talking about this Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather World Tour, which I have to say I watched a bit of, and apart from the FU stitched-in jacket, I'm not really convinced that this is going to be all that. I don't know. This feels more like a WWE type show, and these guys are just faking everything that's going on. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Trev, what's your take on it?
I mean, hey, maybe it could be, but I think first and foremost, it's entertaining. And I mean, really, this is what this fight's all about. It's not even really about the fight. Maybe somehow Conor McGregor shocks the world, but I don't think anybody's really expecting that. That's why it would shock the world. So really, the whole point of this was the build up to the fight. And I mean, I've never watched an actual boxing presser before, so that was my first time for that. With a different format. Conor McGregor at times took some issue with it. They cut his mic in LA. That first presser, really their highlight of the week was day number 2 in Toronto. So that was their best presser. That was where McGregor really came to play and probably had his best day. And man, McGregor's a great talker when he gets talking. He at one point mentioned why Floyd Mayweather had a book bag and said he couldn't even read. So whenever you take a shot at a guy like that, and Floyd Mayweather, man, I mean, this guy is not a great trash talker. I mean, you put him in there with one of the best, in combat sports, in Conor McGregor, and it's going to look rough. But I mean, this is a guy that every time he goes to the mic, it's the same sort of stuff. Hard work. Yeah, he's just shouting like the same sort of stuff, and
Wait, was that
he's
Floyd
not...
Mayweather? Oh, I think
Yeah.
I just heard Floyd Mayweather over there.
It was like a hard work dedication chant. He tries to get going in every location, and I mean, really, you got to know how to play off of the crowd, and I mean, they were giving it to him. They were booing the heck out of him. Every place was very pro McGregor, especially when you get to London in the UK and Toronto here in Canada, very pro McGregor. So Mayweather didn't play off of that well at all, and definitely McGregor, I think, had the better week.
And news coming out literally hours ago that Conor McGregor, while sparring for this Floyd Mayweather fight, got knocked out. So, something to think about going into this fight. If you're making bets, don't make bets, that's bad. But if you do, keep that in mind. And that's it for this edition of BSS Sports. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook at BSS Sports. Archiving all of our works on YouTube at BSS Productions. For Trevor, Struthers, and myself, Stephen Schill, we'll catch you next Monday.